I think these two transfer rumours are quite interesting for West Ham fans and could potentially give us an indication as to what the board intend to do with David Moyes' contract long term. Because right now there are two players available that, at least historically, David Moyes has been big fans of and wanted to bring to West Ham United. And I think the reasons that we haven't brought them to West Ham are fair and acceptable. In the case of Armando Broja, he did his ACL when we were looking for a striker, so that ruled that one out. In the case of Kalvin Phillips, we bid 50 million for him during the January transfer window. Leeds were in a relegation battle, obviously and understandably rejected it. And then he went to Manchester City in the following summer transfer window. So I think the reasons for not signing them so far is fair. I've not got an issue with that. But right now, in the January transfer window, both players are available. Manchester City are willing to loan out Kalvin Phillips. Chelsea are willing to sell Armando Broja. Two players that we know David Moyes has really wanted to bring. It had been reported that they were his number one targets in the past as well. But that's only half the battle. The manager liking and wanting a player is only one side of it. It doesn't necessarily mean you can have them. It doesn't necessarily mean you can get them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need them. But looking at our squad right now, do we need a striker? I would argue that yes, we could do with one. And do we need a midfielder like Kalvin Phillips? I would strongly argue that yes, we do. So they're available, and I would argue we could do with them. And that's why I think if the board were to make a move for them, it would potentially indicate that they do see David Moyes being here beyond the summer. But if they were to not make a move for two players that are available, it would suggest that they are, at worst or at best, depending on how you look at it, unsure on giving David Moyes a new contract. That's what we're going to discuss today, because Armando Broja is available and Kalvin Phillips is available. But not only that, at the very end of this video, I've got a clip from Anton Ferdinand discussing something quite close to his heart that's really irritated him in the last 24 hours. I'll play you that at the end though. But first, let's deal with the transfer rumours. So, in the case of Broja, David Ornstein, who I think is a fantastic journalist, one of the best journalists in the country, he's done an article this afternoon saying that Chelsea are open to selling Armando Broja should they receive an adequate offer. But the interesting thing here is they do not need to sell first. In a lot of cases like this, I suppose you look at West Ham with Danny Ings and Said Benrahma, it's a case of we're open to selling these players, however we need to get a replacement first. That is not the case with Broja. Chelsea are willing to sell him without bringing anybody in, so that makes him available, but it also makes him available today. Now, the three clubs that have been linked to him are ourselves, Wolves, who we know are skint. Wolves do not have any money, can't spend any money because of financial fair play. And also Fulham. Fulham are linked to him as well, which I could see. Now, I don't know the financial situation of Fulham. It's not as well public documented as Wolves, Newcastle, Everton, Nottingham Forest, ourselves are. So I'm not too sure on the Fulham one. Whether they can afford him or not, I don't know. But that's the three clubs that have been linked to him this afternoon by David Ornstein, who, like I said, I think is a brilliant journalist. But do we want Broja? A year or so ago, I really did. I would have loved to have had him, because when he was out in the Netherlands on loan, he was scoring a lot of goals, came back to Chelsea. Chelsea refused to sanction a loan move for him. Then they signed someone, can't recall who, I haven't looked up, this is just from memory. I remember they signed a striker in that summer, it might have been Lukaku. Then as a result they decided, okay, we can now loan Broja out. He went to Southampton, I think he did really well. His numbers were okay, they were adequate, they weren't anything fantastic. However, when you add the context, which is a young player playing his first full season in the Premier League at a new club, I think then it becomes a good season for him. And I liked what I seen at Southampton from Broja. Not every game, some games he wasn't the best, but other games he looked fantastic against us, unfortunately. But it was enough to make me want him at West Ham. And also I think he has all the attributes and style to suit the way that we play under David Moyes. Now, since we got linked to him, we sort of changed how we play and then changed back to how we played when we were linked to Broja. It makes sense, the way that he plays. He's strong, he's fast, he can play the lone striker role. He's almost not so big a name and profile that he's undroppable, which I think will be important under David Moyes. I know he has his favourites, but I think because he likes to use Bowen, I think if we do bring in a new striker, he's almost going to have to share that role with Bowen and Antonio. And I think Broja ticks those boxes. Plus, He's homegrown. I know, I won't go on about it too much, but he is homegrown. It's something we need to consider. The price tag is the crucial thing for me. Would I like Broja? Yes, but it depends on how much. So it's not the player that would put me off, it's the money. So I had a little look at see what Chelsea fans were saying, what Chelsea accounts were saying regarding the news. Not their opinion on the player, but what they thought the price tag would be. It varies, as you'd imagine, 25 to 50 million and anything in between. The lower end of that, I think, would be a good deal. 25, 30 million. I think that would be a good price for Broja. I think it would be a fair price. I think Chelsea win and we win. 35 and above, I'm getting a little bit, whoa, that's too pricey for me. I'd rather not. I think there's better players out there. And to be fair, even for your 30 million, I think there's better, more proven strikers out there than Broja, but they do not have that homegrown tag that Broja has. And I think that's worth a few million. So Broja, it's a yes from me, depending on the price tag. However, he is available. Now moving on to Kalvin Phillips. This one's been around the whole January transfer window, not West Ham, but he's available. Man City are willing to loan him out. Phillips is believed to really want the loan move as well. Got the Euros coming up. He'll probably be in the England squad anyway, but I think it's more for match sharpness and match practice, and just to make sure that he does get into that Euros squad. So Phillips is keen on the move. Man City are not going to stand in his way, verbally anyway, but they're making it very difficult. A 7 million loan fee, that's the rumour. The rumour is Man City wants 7 million for someone to loan him for half a season. Now his wages, and that's just without the wages by the way, it's 7 million and to cover Kalvin Phillips' wages. But the one thing that surprised me with this transfer rumour is he's only on, I say only, he's only on 125 grand a week. I expected him to be on like 200 grand a week or something. So when I saw his wage at Man City, the reported wage at least, I thought, hang on, we can afford this. We've got a few players on that wage or a similar wage with Ings, Zuma, Bowen. There's a few players on comfortably over 100 grand a week. So that's not a barrier to us signing Kalvin Phillips. It's the 7 million loan fee. It's quite chunky. However, there's not going to be any competition. Nobody else can afford it. Newcastle are the strong favourites to sign him. I think it was expected he was going to go to Newcastle because of Tonali's ban. But Eddie Howe's been stating that A, they've got no money, they can't do anything. But B, they can get involved in the loan market, but nobody's their friend. Nobody wants to help out Newcastle. Now, actually, I think Man City loaning Kalvin Phillips to Newcastle would be a clever thing on their part because he can help Newcastle beat teams around Man City in the league. Hopefully he could go there and they could do something against Villa, Liverpool and Arsenal. So I think that would make sense, and obviously come the summer Newcastle might be able to spend then, and then Kalvin Phillips is already sort of their player. So I think it would be a wise move. I think Phillips would be better off joining Newcastle than West Ham. From a footballing perspective, I think that's the best place for him to go. But it's that loan fee. Can they afford it? Maybe not. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we can. However, that's what they want. It doesn't mean that's what they'll get. And I'd struggle to believe there could be a negotiation where you pay a loan fee and it doesn't come off the summer fees should you go on and buy him. I don't know what his price tag would be in the summer. 35 million, 40 million. Maybe you'd want the 50 million back in total. But if you could arrange a deal where in the summer you do pay to make it a permanent transfer and that loan fee is deducted, as is the norm with some of these loan fees, maybe, just maybe, there's a bit of business to be done there. Now, while I pushed back last week about being called a flip-flop in regards to the Moyes in, Moyes out debate, I will accept being called a flip-flop when it comes to what I want in the January transfer window. Because approaching the January transfer window, I was adamant that our number one target should be somebody to compete with Edson Alvarez. Now, when I say that, it's not to knock him out of the team. It's to cover Edson Alvarez when he's unavailable, whether it be injury, just after the international breaks, suspension, he's going to have another one of them before the end of the season, or to play alongside. But I wanted someone that good that when you took Alvarez out of the team and put this new player in, you didn't notice a difference. He could do the thing that Alvarez does. And then obviously the injuries happened to Paqueta, Bowen, and then Caduce's absence, Antonio's setback. I changed my mind as we came into January. I actually know we could do with an attacking player. However, given what has been positive news regarding Bowen's injury, now I hope we don't rush him back for Sunday, but even if he didn't play Sunday, he'll be back for the Bournemouth game, so you'll miss one league game. Paqueta's done posts on social media of him in the gym, which is encouraging. You know, he was the one that sort of got rid of the 2-month rumour himself, so I think it's fair to suggest that he might be, he'll obviously miss Sheffield United, but he might not be too far behind Jared Bowen in that regards. So suddenly for the Bournemouth game, we might have Paqueta and Bowen back, and our Kudus won't be far behind them. Our attack's not looking too shabby all of a sudden. So I've gone from wanting a midfielder to wanting a striker back to a midfielder because of that positive news and that bloody display from James Ward-Prowse and Thomas Souček against Bristol City. Now, they've not yet had a good game, just them two as a pairing. And I don't like seeing it, but until we've got another alternative in there, we're going to keep on seeing it. If Alvarez is unavailable, that's what Moyes is going to do in the middle of the pitch. And I hate it. I think we struggle to defend and we struggle to create with that pair in midfield. It's a bad combination. Kalvin Phillips, I think, would be the perfect player to bring in. Again, homegrown tech. He's got all the motivation under the world to go and play football. I think he's a fantastic footballer as well. I really do. I think at Leeds United he was incredible. Injury prone, yes. This is the issue though. This is the problem if we were to sign him. You're probably going to lose him to injuries, and it would just be our luck that we'd get Kalvin Phillips in. Alvarez will be suspended. Phillips will be injured, and we've got to play that two midfield again. But Phillips is good enough to come in and play alongside Alvarez. He is. You could easily see a midfield where we've got Ward-Prowse, Alvarez and Phillips. And I would argue that long term you could have Alvarez and Phillips in there and then have Paqueta as your other, drop Ward-Prowse and then have Paqueta in there as well, because defensively them two are good enough to protect that back four on their own. So I think Kalvin Phillips would be a fantastic signing for us. I'm a big fan of him. Again, it comes down to the money. It's an expensive one. Man City paid 50 million for him. I'd imagine they're going to want it all back if they can sell him in the summer. But as a loan move, it depends on the fee. If you could get that cut in half, I think that becomes a clever signing. To repay it, we would need to finish 2 places higher. The difference between 10th and 8th in the Premier League is 4 million. If Phillips coming in is good enough for us to be the difference between 10th and 8th or 8th and 6th, it pays it back almost instantly. It's 2 transfers I would like to see happen. But the reason I find them interesting is because David Moyes has really wanted them in the past. Both are available. Now, X spoke to me the other day and he said that he believes, and he came quite strongly, it's not often a journalist or an in the know nails the colours to a mast when it comes to targets. I find they can be quite vague. Oh, West Ham are interested in this player, we're looking at that player, we're keeping an eye on that one. Do you know what I mean? It's quite 5 players per position. I find it quite rare that a journalist or an in the know would nail the colours to the mast and say, that's the one, that's the number 1 target. But that's what X did with Ibrahim Osman. And he said that Steiden, Noble and Moyes all like him. But I can't help but feel, right, this is just me, I can't help but feel it's perhaps more Tim Steiden that likes him than David Moyes. So if we did have 16 million to spend, and we could only bring in 1 player, now suddenly Phillips available, Broja is available, it'd be interesting if we stick to the plan of bringing in Osman, or suddenly our strategy changes. And it might give us a bit of an indication as to how behind David Moyes the board are. And I don't mean right now. I've got no doubt the board are behind David Moyes today, but it doesn't mean that they're also 100% going to give him a new contract. We'll have to wait. I'm still with the Moyes contract as to whether he's going to get one or not, whether wanting to get one or not, whether he's going to get one or not. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think these could give us a bit of a clue. 2 players that Moyes has really wanted available in January transfer window. Anyway, right, Anton Ferdinand time before I disappear. So, if you don't want to hear from Anton Ferdinand, now's the time to disappear, but please do drop a like on it before you go by clicking thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. And for those of you who would like to hear from Anton Ferdinand, every couple of weeks on average, I do a podcast with Anton Ferdinand for our Patreon, half an hour long, discussing the latest news, rumours, matches, but also asking him about his experience as a West Ham player, West Ham Academy graduate, West Ham fan. You get a completely different perspective on things. It might sound silly, but I quite like asking him those questions, which is, what's it like when we played Fulham, there was all these rumours that the players were ill. So it's like, Anton, what's it like being sick? How much does it take out of you having the cold as a footballer? I know it sounds silly, right? But I was interested anyway. Anyway, I recorded one today with Anton, and he had something that really irked him. And then after the podcast finished, he said, oh, could you send me the comments regarding what I said about the fan base criticising Divin Mubama? Now, Anton never asks me to pass on the comments he gets, so this is the first time he's ever done it. So he's obviously interested, so I said to him, well, if you want, I can cut that bit out and put it at the end of my video tonight. He said, yes, do that. So Anton's going to be reading your comments, but not only that, I just want to add a bit of context because it's not really in the video, and that is, when he's calling out the fan base, he's calling out the minorities. He knows the majority are behind Divin Mubama, but he's just seen some comments from some people, and he's not very happy about it, truth be told. I'll let Anton explain.
Which, what I want to speak on today was with the younger players yesterday, which really upset me, as I'm seeing a lot of comments. And this is why I'm mentioning the older players and players that are experienced, that get an opportunity, you come in and you take it with both hands. Otherwise, don't complain. You know, I think there's an undercurrent of West Ham fans that I'm seeing on the social media talking about Divine, saying that he's not good enough, you know, and that's not us. That's not us. And this is what I want to speak about. I wanted to say that's not us. When a young player comes through, we give them time. That's what we used to. I got time. I wasn't the finished article when I first come in. Nobes wasn't the finished article. Declan wasn't the finished article when we all first came in. But what we got was time. You know, I was in and out of the team at first, made mistakes, didn't give a good account of myself. I remember hearing fans saying, he's rubbish, he'll never be Rio. However, the core of the fan base, I got time. And this is what I want to see from our fans now with Divine. You know, he's not good enough, ship him out, don't renew, get him out. Where is that loyalty that we have as a fan base, that when one of our own, or not even if they're one of our own, someone who's come through our youth team gets an opportunity, that we're not quick to judge them. I don't want to see that from our fan base to young players. I know from being a young player who came through the football club what it's like to play for West Ham. And not just that, how hard it is to become an important member of the football club and of the football team. I was in Chadwell Heath a few nights ago, and in the indoor pitch, they've got the train line of players that have made their debut for the football club. And I'm looking at it, and when we talk about established players, people that have established themselves in the West Ham team, forget having a career in football, because a lot of them have had careers in football. But when I say established themselves in the West Ham team, so we're talking 80 to 100 games in the first team, or playing week in, week out in the first team. When you look at it, you go after Rio and Lamps and all that, the golden generation, you then get to me. Yeah. Then after that, it's Mark Noble. Then after that, it's James Tompkins. Then there's about another 15 to 20 names, by the way, that have made their debut. But when we talk about someone who's established himself, you have to wait until you get to Declan Rice from James Tompkins. But there's players who have made their debut or played 50 games for the club, but they not played 50 games on the bounce. Yeah. Junior Stanislas, Zavon Hines, these players who had fantastic careers in the game.
Ben Johnson's one.
Ben Johnson, you know, but these are guys who had fantastic careers in the game. But again, they've all added to our legacy as a football club that we produce footballers. But it's hard to, one, just produce a footballer. It's hard to do that. But two, to establish yourself in a team. And I think we need to, as fans, get behind them young boys. Yes, we want to see them play. Divine's not had a run of games in the first team. When he gets that run of game, and I hope he does, maybe it's a loan move to then come back and get it. But if he does, I think we need to give him time and show what they've shown the likes of myself and people that have gone before them. Because that's the fan base that I know and love, because of the way that they treated me as a young boy coming into the first team. I just wanted to say that today on the podcast, based on the fact that I've seen a few fans say that, and I don't think it's right.